Welcome to Find the Connection, the podcast where we explore the history, development, events, and stories that make Northeast Florida so inviting. I'm your host, Kendra Robertson, a real estate professional, community leader, wellness ambassador, and proud resident of Jacksonville Beach for over 30 years. In each episode, we'll dive into the stories of the people that are making a difference, both at a local level and nationally. We'll share an inside look at real estate with tips for maintaining work-life balance, from winning your mornings to winning your day, all while staying connected with our vibrant local community. So grab your coffee, get comfortable, and let's find the connection between community and living your best life. All right, we are here today with Anne Marie Moquin, who is a lifelong nature and animal lover turned environmental activist and founder and executive director of Beaches Go Green. But she also has been on the Beaches Town Center agency with me and just recently opened her home to the VIP ticket holders for the Beaches Tour of Homes. So welcome, Anne Marie. Thank you.
Thank you. Of course.
I guess we can kind of go back a little bit to the beginning before we get into Beaches Go Green. We met, I think, when you were bringing animals to the courtyard.
Oh my gosh.
I know, years ago.
I forgot about that.
Well, I was laughing because I remember iPhones had just come out and I shared my contact with you, and it was a professional meeting, and my kids had changed my contact to One Hot Mama. Do you remember that?
Oh my God, that's hilarious. That's awesome.
So you're like the first person I shared my contact with, and you're like, oh, I love you.
I love your One Hot Mama. Positive affirmations.
So yeah, I guess I know that you and your husband are from Michigan.
Yes.
And you've got two boys that you just have a really close-knit family that I love.
Thank you.
So what brought you to Florida? Like, how did you end up in Florida?
So after college, when my husband and I took different job opportunities, one of the placements was in Jacksonville, where my husband opened an office. And that's when we actually rented Ned Jones's garage apartment. So we lived there for a year. We actually got engaged there in Neptune Beach. And then we moved back to Colorado, which is, when we got married while we were living out there. But we got married in Hawaii. And let's see. Then that was when he was working for someone else. And then when he decided to create his own business with a couple of partners, Florida was in the short list, and we had been to this area. So we're like, let's go to Jacksonville and we can be at the beach, and we appreciated the ocean. And it's funny because coming from Michigan, you don't think that people actually even live in Florida. You just go to spring break in Florida, right? So that was a very unique thing to live here. And now it's been forever.
Remind me, I think you had a Ponte Vedra home before you landed in Atlantic Beach. Is that right?
Yeah, so we lived on the corner of 2nd and Myrtle in Neptune Beach for a couple years, and then we moved to South Ponte Vedra, and then from South Ponte Vedra we moved up here. Yeah, we built the house and moved up here with a short stint in California, actually, in the middle of the build of this house.
Wow.
Yeah.
So for those listeners, Anne Marie's home was featured in Jacksonville Magazine for the October 2025
home tour.
So tell me a little bit about your house, because it's real estate related.
Yeah. So our house is really inspired by California modern. We really loved the modern minimalist design and a lot of the stuff we saw in California. And when we had a house there, it was more transitional modern. So when we decided to build, we're like, let's go for it. Let's go full modern. And it was a big learning process, but it was a great adventure. And I'm really happy with the design and the house itself. It's a really fun house.
Yeah, got lots of compliments on Saturday.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
You know, I've been involved Beaches Town Center for many, many years. When did
Yeah.
you get on the board? What years were those?
So we moved in October of 2015 into Atlantic Beach, and Ned had been telling me, you've got to get involved, you got to do this, you got to do that. And I think it was 2016. Well, actually, no, it was probably 2018 because it took me a little while to adjust and get settled in and all that. And I joined the Beaches Town Center board almost the same exact time that I started Beaches Go Green, which was June 2018. So that's what makes me think it was 2018 that I must have joined the board of Beaches Town Center.
So you've been very passionate about recycling. What led you to start Beaches Go Green?
So initially, I thought that I could make a huge impact by teaching people how to recycle right. But that was before I knew any better, honestly. And now we barely even talk about recycling. It's like way so far down on the eco-friendly list based on everything that I've learned. So we are an environmental education nonprofit. And my goal is that we can be an educational source for the everyday person. You don't have to be an environmentalist. You don't have to know anything about it. You just have to want to do better. And in order to do better, I feel like you need to know better. So did that answer your question?
No, I know early on, even just yeah, the education for me, like knowing the contamination on a like having to rinse things out. You don't just yeah, it's plastic, I can recycle it. Having to rinse it out, a pizza box that the grease, you can't recycle that part.
Yeah.
So I appreciated that side of it, but you have taken it to a whole new level in education and involvement. So tell me about, I know you've got clubs in the different high schools.
We do. Well, so let me address what you said real quick about everybody wants to talk about recycling. And the reason why I don't focus on recycling is because it seems to be if you ask 9 out of 10 people what's your most eco-friendly behavior, people are like, oh, pick me, I recycle, right? But recycling is a super broken industry, and the majority of what we send to recycling through our curbside bin doesn't get actually recycled. It ends up in the landfill. And that's due to a lack of education. For example, like you mentioned, washing things or knowing what's recyclable in your curbside bin. The greenwashing that happens throughout the industries. And
What do you mean greenwashing?
Greenwashing, like, for example, anything hypothetically, most things, I shouldn't say anything, but most things are recyclable. But it comes down to, does it make sense to recycle it? Is it cost effective? Is it better to just create something new? And maybe we should be thinking about not using that in the first place just because it has the potential to be recyclable. Polystyrene, which is styrofoam, is the perfect example. It's so cheap, it's plastic puffed with air, and hypothetically, it is recyclable. However, it has toxic chemicals in it. It is nowhere near cost effective to recycle it. So it almost is always landfilled. So that's just an example of greenwashing. Well, it's recyclable, but that doesn't mean that it's going to get recycled. It's a very complicated thing. So moving on, we have focused more on changing habits up front, like getting people aware about what they're purchasing before they get down the line. Like for a long time, we were talking about the 4 R's: refuse first, reduce, reuse, and then recycle was the last of the 4 R's because it was supposed to help with whatever you couldn't correct in the first 3. Right. But actually, I've taken it off now because everyone wants to talk about recycling. And we need to be doing better when we go to the grocery store and what we demand of companies and manufacturing and the transparency. And there's so many other levels. And now it's not even relevant to me as far as our health, whether something's recyclable or not, because the microplastics and the chemicals in plastic are now found to be in so many parts of our body, in our soil, in our air, in our water, and we're just learning how that's impacting our health. And so who cares if it's recyclable or not, if it's causing cancer or it's causing endocrine issues in children and adults, right? The other thing I'll add, about recyclability is that most of the recycling, particularly involving plastic, is done with chemicals. And in the early days, I would promote, oh, buy things made of recycled plastic. You're doing your part, right? But what I found is in order to recycle it, they're adding even more chemicals into that plastic. Wow. So if that's surrounding your food or drink, or if it's in your clothes, like, for example, the Reprieve fabric that's in so much of our clothing these days, they almost 100% likely have to add more chemicals. So I'd like to suggest that recycled plastic is even more toxic to the environment and to our bodies than virgin plastic. And it's more expensive. So here we were paying a premium thinking we were doing something eco-friendly. That's another perfect example of greenwashing, right? But we're actually harming the environment more and we're harming ourselves more. So
that's quite a journey that you have had.
It is.
And I'm not full circle, but in really understanding the plastic pollution kind of concept, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I give a whole talk about why recycling's not the answer, and we get, way more in depth. But yeah, I try not to talk about the recycling aspect because it's such a distraction to the other things that we could be doing before that.
No, that's amazing. We haven't really talked about this in a while. I know.
Yeah.
We were doing events, and of course the cleanups that you do on the beach. Cigarette butts has been huge.
Yep.
Even just cleaning up the streets and beaches, town center, and other areas of town. Wow, you've really come a long way from.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we've come a long way. And the other thing, too, is I've greatly reduced the number of cleanups that I'm putting my energy into because I'm really focusing more on the education, which is the fundamental of our nonprofit. Because if we don't create that awareness and change people's behaviors, we're going to be cleaning up after people our whole lives. And I sure don't want to keep picking up people's trash, right? It's not just about littering. It's about the awareness of all the plastic consumption and the single-use convenience-based lifestyle that we all have become so familiar with.
Are you still involved with Deck the Chairs?
I totally support Curtis, but I have taken a break for the last couple of years. Our student clubs have been involved every year. So schools individually choose to participate as their Beaches Go Green Club. And so we still have involvement in that way. But man, did I burn myself out on that. That was a big undertaking. And I had never done anything like that before. So it was very
fabulous. Cool. I remember the first year you did it. And did you end up moving that to
It spent a short time at the Jacksonville Zoo. We donated it to Mayport Coastal Sciences Middle School, and they turned it into an outdoor classroom area. But I think that too has passed, and I'm not really sure what has happened to the pieces. Some of the pieces are still there, but yeah, unfortunately, I don't know that it exists in its entirety anymore.
So through the years, I've done a lot with the Interact kids. They've supported a lot of our Beaches Town Center projects, and I've enjoyed the leadership aspect of that. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing with those high school beaches clubs in that aspect.
I love that. I love the interaction with our youth, especially when you see them get it. So we have 15 student clubs in Duval and St. Johns County. Each of them is led by a teacher or a Duval County staff member. And then I support them. And depending on the school, depending on the officers, and depending on the sponsor at the school, really dictates how involved I am. Because sometimes the teachers are overwhelmed and I try to step in, or sometimes they've got it and they want to do their thing. So I offer training in the summer, usually at the end of the summer before the school year starts, because we have a lot of new officers. And it's cool because we have a lot of students that come in that don't have a background in environmental science. They don't know about microplastics and plastic pollution and plastics in their health. So they're learning and then they're passing it on to teach more students and other people. Yeah.
Are there any other Beaches Go Green programs that I'm not aware of that you're doing?
One of the biggest programs that we have done is our reusable bottles for sports. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that one,
We did
but
it with a few teams, yeah.
yeah, so we've done more than 36,000 of those reusable. They're 27 ounce. We've used Sick brand. And what we do is we get a community sponsor to pay for the cost of the bottles. And we put their logo, the team logo, and the Beaches Go Green logo on the bottle. And I hesitate to say gift, but we give these water bottles to athletes at the school with a responsibility. First, we give them the talk about plastic pollution. We want them to choose reusable over single use. And second of all, we talk to them about how the chemicals in plastic get into our food and drink, and they're impacting virtually every system in our bodies. And so that, a healthier choice is to choose to drink and eat out of glass or stainless steel, for example. So we give them that talk. And then on the school or the team side, we ask them to make the bottles part of the required sports uniform. We ask them to model the behavior with their leadership. So we often give one to every staff member in the school, and then provide refilling stations. So we tell them it comes with a responsibility. This isn't just a free giveaway, but we want you to change your behaviors. And the program's been wildly successful. Our student clubs at those schools administer the programs. We desperately need sponsors for that program. This year, we haven't done many bottles at all just because we haven't had the sponsorship, and it can range greatly, right? Like you could pick one team or one season, or you could do the whole school, all sports for the whole year, right? And you get your logo out there, and it's a great way to get your brand into hundreds, even thousands of households.
So what kind of refilling station are you making arrangements for?
We have sponsored a few in some of the schools, and then sometimes the clubs actually save up their dues and pay for them in the schools, but it's usually a modification of an existing, let's just say, LK drinking fountain into a refilling station. They have the retrofit, or what, the things to conversion kits, that's the word I'm looking for. So that's pretty cool. And then of course, like if they need to bring a big jug out to refill or whatever, most of the teams have that kind of stuff anyway, but we're encouraging them not to do single-use plastic water bottles and not single-use Gatorade water bottles or whatever.
Having three girls that played sports, it is crazy to think about how many single-use plastic is at the side of the field, all the
The garbage cans are overflowing, right? And we've incorporated, a lot of schools have opted to include the band members in that, because the band members are out there and they go through a lot of water bottles too. So I wish we could give every student one, but we're working on it. So
That's awesome.
yeah, some other programs that we do Eco Cinema. We work with the St. Augustine Film Society, and we've been showing Eco Cinema films down at the St. Augustine Yacht Club. We've done them at the St. Augustine Amphitheater. That's been super cool and amazing. They're always free, family friendly, and then we do a panel discussion afterward. We actually have one coming up on Tuesday the 19th. We're going to show the film The Last Tourist, and it actually talks about the impact that we have in all the places that we visit around the world and when we travel. So it's pretty cool and interesting. Talking to groups, we do a ton of that. I wish there were more of me, and I'm working on getting some more of me so we can be out there talking to more people, because people are like, what? I never knew that. Oh my gosh, that's so crazy. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot to learn, but you can make small changes and then you can keep taking on more, and all of a sudden you'll find out you're healthier and you're creating less waste, and it's a lot easier than looking to change everything all at once.
So you've traveled quite a bit. What is it like when you're traveling in another country? Are you looking at
Oh, I'm always looking at that stuff. Yeah, sometimes I'm really pleased and I'll take pictures and send it back to City of Atlantic Beach or Neptune or whatever and say, hey, why aren't we doing this? Or can we do this? And that's pretty cool. And then sometimes I'm really saddened and disappointed by the amount of pollution and the lack of awareness around the single-use plastic. Yeah. I don't know if you want me to call anybody out, but I've seen some pretty sketchy stuff for sure. And anyway, it's unfortunate. And you just hope that someday they're going to realize, you know, but a lot of these more impoverished areas and underdeveloped countries, the industries that promote plastic, the oil and gas industry, they're so smart and they know to push out, you know, they call them cachets. They're like single serving versions of everything, right? And they're single use. And that's what people can afford, right? You get enough money and you buy one serving of something and then that's immediately trash. And so they've definitely taken advantage. They've found a need and filled it with their product. So it's hard to see that way. And then just when you go somewhere and they're just not aware of pollution because they've already always grown up in it, right? Like I've been to some places in the Dominican Republic where, you know, the trash on the beaches is just crazy and sad. And then, you know, I was just recently in Sicily. I mean, everybody throws their trash on the ground. It's felt like I was horrified because they have so much natural beauty and history. And I was like, what is this? Like, what? I don't even understand.
When I was in Bali in June, there were sections that I just was like, wow, there, you know, why would you, it just piled up right there, you know?
Right. Yeah. But if your focus is on eating that day or feeding your kids, you know, and if that's all you've ever known, you're not going to be looking at how can I reduce my carbon footprint or how can I use less plastic? Like, no, you're going to take whatever you can get and you can afford at the moment. So there's so many broken systems. I wish I had an answer that would solve more of them.
You're making a huge difference in our community, and that's really what this podcast is about. The people, the stories behind the people that are in our community that are making a difference. And that's really what sells real estate. The people that live, you know? So I really just have to commend you for having the energy that you do.
Thank you. Well, I think you rival my energy. So there's that.
Yeah, my volunteer card is pretty full.
Yeah.
I'm working on it.
It feels good. And it's also like I'm trying to create the world that I want to live in, even if it's only in my footprint that I can impact, you know?
Yeah, you know, I think when I look back at when I really did get involved in my community, it was when my kids entered the public school system. And I was that PTA mom, like rounds and, you know, that kind of, and then
on that note, one of the reasons I started Beaches Go Green was because I wanted my kids to have community service experience. And it was really difficult in a lot of ways to find opportunities for younger kids, right? Because you can't appreciate what you have until you can contrast how somebody else lives, right? And that's why we travel and that's why we expose our kids to different cultures and ourselves and so on. But it was important to me that our events were family friendly and you could be 102 or you could be 2, right? You can be in a stroller, you can bring your dog, you can whatever, right? Like we'll meet you where you are for the most part and just try to impact you. There have been so many people that have come for whatever reason. It wasn't the reason of they cared about plastic pollution and wanted to pick up trash, right? Maybe their friends were coming, maybe their parents made them, maybe their work made them, but they walk away going, wow, I had no idea, right? I've heard that so many times. I had no idea. And at Deck the Chairs, we were able to impact hundreds of thousands of people with our messaging about plastic. And I think that was pretty neat too. I'd love to do that again, but I'm going to need a whole team if we ever do that again.
You've made an impact in the cities too, your involvement in the cities of Atlantic Beach and Neptune Beach too. So where do you think you're headed with this Beaches Go Green? Like what's in the future?
Well, I'm looking to hire an executive director and a director of community outreach. I'm actually going through resumes and going to be starting to interview. I want to be really involved, but the creative side and the do side is really my passion. When I started Beaches Go Green, I had no intention of ever starting a business, and holy cow, that's what I did. And so I have the business side that I had to learn and do, and that stuff brings me down. So it's not my favorite. I'd rather be out there picking up trash or sorting or speaking to the kids or thinking of the next brilliant idea that, we're going to implement. So anyway, I want to still be involved, but I need help. I need someone who can do fundraising and grants and so on, so we can pay to expand. And people ask, like, are you going to expand? And eventually I'd like to, but there's so much more we can do in the footprint we're already in. There's so many more schools we could impact. There's so much more depth we could teach to the people that we already impact. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'd like to focus on that first. Yeah.
Is there anything else that we haven't talked about that you want to talk about?
Well, I would like to say you guys killed it with the home tour. You made it so easy and so nice. My family was a little hesitant, and I think that they even though they were pretty much gone, they came back and it was like almost no impact, So that was really nice and it was fun. Everyone was gracious and I enjoyed it.
So it's our 7th year doing it, and our new co-chair, Robin Spence, who owns First Society, and
Ashley, yeah.
She just took the event like to a whole new level. Just really elevated the experience for the committee, for the ticket holders, for the community. And having the first year, the champagne brunch during the day at your house, yours was the VIP house, we just had a great response. Everybody just loved it, So yeah, just, bigger, better. It was a great fundraiser for us. It was off the grid of the central business district.
Mm-hmm.
That impact on the businesses the day of. And yeah, so we as a board have been looking at events that, how does it affect or influence the board, the nonprofit funds? How does it affect the businesses in that central business district? And how does it affect the community? And those are the 3 kind of components that we think about when we're expanding on events or creating new events. So, yeah.
I love it. Yeah, I know you guys are doing great work. And I think a lot of people don't understand that the Beaches Town Center Agency is its own nonprofit run by volunteers who really are just giving back to the community and supporting the businesses in that footprint. It's really impressive.
So on the home tour, we had 3 former board members open their homes, and I was speaking with Joanna Fletcher, who was actually, her home was on tour this year. Used to be the Atlanta Beach Post Office years ago when they were still trains.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
But we were at the cocktails and conversations. We were having those cocktails and conversations once a month leading up to, and it was a great networking event for the sponsors, for the homeowners. But I was speaking with Joanna, and she was one of the original community members that started the nonprofit.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yes. So when you think of all the renovations and landscaping and support we've given, she was a part of that original renovation, where not the engraved bricks that we sell, but the red bricks that are in the crosswalks, like the reusable one. She was saying her and her 2 young children at the time were sitting in the city yard with 40 inmates cleaning those bricks.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, that's the story that I wanted to
tell, that's like, crazy. Where did they come from?
I'm not really sure, but it was 1991 when that board formed. And so 30 something years later, you see, and when you say a lot of people don't know what we do, that's the kind of thing that you see the progress that we've made,
Yeah.
And it's a complete volunteer board, and it's community members, business owners, people that just live here and want to be involved. So, and have a voice. That's the biggest thing. Just have a voice in their community. So
I love it.
So Anne Marie, how did you end up founding the whole Beaches Go Green? How did that start?
It's a good question. I think you and I talked about how, as our kids get older, we're searching for our purpose in life in our community. And I had watched a documentary called The Plastic Ocean, and I highly recommend, if anyone is interested in documentaries, to watch it. It's a few years old now, but basically it talks about how our fast-paced single-use, convenience-based lifestyle is impacting nature in the farthest reaches of the globe, right? And my passion was always animals, and so that really stuck with me, and I kept talking about it. And when my boys were real little, I would go in and give little talks about sea turtles to the preschoolers or North Atlantic right whales or whatever. So I guess I always had that passion for the animals and education. And I was scrolling through Instagram and I saw this meme or post or whatever, and it said, I always wondered why somebody didn't do something about it. And then I realized I was somebody, and I was like, oh my God, maybe that's what I'm supposed to do. Like, I'll just start this group and I'll go in and talk to whoever will listen and just talk to them about what are we doing, right? Like, we're all so busy and we're not thinking about the choices we're making, so on. And I would tell everyone who would listen to watch that documentary. And I started Beaches Go Green at that point, and I had no idea where I was going with it other than to just talk to people about nature and pollution and how we can do better. And so I guess my point is that if you have a passion, there's always something you can do. You can get on board with somebody who's already doing something about it, or you can start something of your own, and you never know where that's going to lead you. And, I'm all about multiplying forces. And so when I teach somebody, like the students, and then they go on and teach 10 more students and present to a whole grade, right? We're multiplying that voice, and we're keeping important topics in the conversation. And so whatever it is your passion is, I encourage you to support something or somebody, but get out there and do something. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. I will say, now that I am an empty nest and I've broken through my unhealthy decade, my daily ocean swim in the morning, my mile in the ocean, has definitely become my passion. But it's also, I'm just winning my morning. So in a entrepreneurial way, I'm starting my day with gratitude. I'm swimming a mile, watching the sun come up.
Awesome.
Come back, I'm ready to start my day, that kind of thing. And I will say, just as a busy mom of 3, now being an empty nest, just really working on that life balance. It's easy now. It's easy because, I wish I would have done things differently in the heat of that crazy 3-kid doing lots of activity time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Perspective gives you a lot of information, doesn't it?
Oh, all right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank
Anne
you.
Marie. I really appreciate it. All right.
Thanks for listening to Find the Connection. I hope today's episode gave you some helpful insights and inspired you to get involved in your community. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe and leave a review. It helps others find us. And if you're interested in making a move or learning more about Northeast Florida, reach out to me anytime. Let's keep finding the connection together. Until next time, stay connected and keep thriving.